Situated in the galactic east of the galaxy, there is a highly advanced technological race whose rate of development and expansion puts them at odds with the stagnant Imperium of man. These blue-skinned aliens make use of combat suits and drone technology to wage their wars and bring their greater good to the worlds of the galaxy. We are of course talking today about the Tau Empire. The first contact believed to have occurred between the Tau and any other race happened before the Age of Apostasy, a grand event in the timeline of the Imperium that occurred roughly 4,000 to 5,000 years before the main setting of Warhammer 40,000. The Adeptus Mechanicus surveyed and scanned the world of Tau and detected primitive life developing settlements on the planet. Tau was designated for Xenos eradication and human colonization, and the Admet continued on their assigned duty. Before this designation could be put into practice, however, warp storms cut off that area of space from the Imperium's ships, and millennia passed before safe travel could be achieved once more. In these few thousand years, went from throwing rocks at each other in caves to a highly advanced spacefaring race. With a relatively short lifespan when compared to humans, each individual Tau burned brightly with a dynamism that saw each generation develop quicker and quicker. The species began to diverge both mentally and physically, with some becoming strong and warlike plane hunters, others skilled builders and settlers, and others loquacious merchants and diplomats. As these differences grew, so did the divides between the tribes and groups of the monocontinent on the planet Tau. This era of conflict, referred to the Tau as the Mont Tau, saw multiple wars occur and alliances form and break. This dark time in the Tau history was brought to an end by an event first thought to have been the end of days. The bright lights that had appeared in the sky, however, turned out not to be an apocalypse, but instead salvation. A new subspecies of the Tau, the Ethereals, walked out of the darkness of night and into the besieged fortress of Phioton. There, they brokered a treaty between the two forces and spoke of the future of their people. The Ethereals foresaw a grand future for the people of Tau. Together, they would prosper and expand, all in the name of the Tau Va, the greater good. It was this shared destiny that united the Tau as a singular race once more and galvanized their rapid development towards the future. Under the guidance of the Ethereal Council, a caste system was implemented that saw the various tribes arranged by their different strengths. The Earth caste was comprised of those who excelled as builders and became the engineers and scientists of the Tau as their technology developed. The Air caste were the messengers and scouts of the Tau, serving eventually as their pilots and spacecraft pioneers. Those that fared best as diplomats and in mercantile trade became the Water caste, reaching out to the other races that the Tau encountered in their spacefaring era and offering them to join in their goal for Tau Va. This left the strong and warlike people of the Tau for the Fire caste. It is this caste that we most commonly see represented on the tabletop, whether on foot or piloting a battlesuit into battle. Banded together, the Tau were able to overcome the perils of their own world, and soon began their exploration out into space and to other planets, relentless with their expanse. They first came with words of friendship, but when denied, returned in a sudden storm of fire. Many of the alien races they encountered either rejected their offer of alliance or were simply so brutally hostile that peace was never an option. While some would come to join the vision of the Tau Va, there were many more who instead came to learn the strength of the Tau's warriors and weapons. The Tau's caste system is still an integral part of their empire in modern day 40k, with interbreeding between the castes outlawed by the Ethereals. Part of their plan to further the Tau Va requires that these castes become more and more developed in their specialties, and so they are maintained and nurtured by this ruling caste, nudged in the right directions to better tailor the castes to suit their required functions. those within these castes do not rebel as you might expect from other races of the galaxy. Such is their devotion to the greater good that is the Tau Empire's destiny. Each individual Tau has little to no choice in their own path or destiny, gladly foregoing their free will to better serve the Tau Va, choosing their duty above all else. Even the renegade sept of the Farside Enclaves still adhere to the caste system of the Tau Va, albeit without ethereal oversight. This level of dedication to a shared cause is what has, for better or worse, brought the Tau into the limelight of the galaxy at large, making them a force to be reckoned with by the other races of the 40k universe. When the Tau go to war, it is the Fire caste that brings their own brand of gun-barrel diplomacy to the enemies of the Tau. Trained from their youngest days, the youth of the Fire caste are indoctrinated into the traditions and philosophies of the Code of Fire. They are raised to value honour and appreciate the balance of a well-played plan and self-control. They are taught that through rash and unplanned warfare will the Tau fall back into an era of Montau, and will the Tau Va be lost to them. Whilst the Tau Empire is ever expanding, the rate at which its populace can grow is still limited. Unlike the grinding war machines of the Astra Militarum, the Fire caste simply don't have the bodies to sustain a training regime that supports last stands and Pyrrhic victories. This isn't to say that any Tau Fire warrior would hesitate to lay down their life in service for the greater good, but it is rarely the first option in their handbook. Instead, the Fire caste train a core strategy of superior mobility and the application of overwhelming firepower, trusting in these methods to either win them the day or retreating to plan a better approach for the issue at hand. It's better to fight another day than die in the name of some sort of distant god emperor. The weapons with which the Fire caste take this fight to their enemies are designed and supplied by the Earth caste. They recognise that there are fighters out there stronger, faster, or with better awareness than the average Tau, and see no shame in utilising technology to level the playing field. Their armour is designed to not only protect the wearer, but contains hardened communications and sensory display systems, allowing fire warriors to share battlefield data mid-fight, as well as interact and request aid from their artificial intelligence-driven drones. These floating warfare assistants are outfitted with various gadgets and weapons to better assist the Tau in battle, whether that's by projecting a force field around them, firing additional mounted weaponry, or even flying in front of projectiles or the swing of an axe, saving their Tau allies from a deathly blow at their own destruction. These drones, as well as the war engines of the Tau, bring the balance back into the Fire Warrior's favour. A particular weapon of renown is the TX-7 hammerhead mounted railgun. This tank weapon fires a projectile towards the enemy at extraordinary speeds via the use of electromagnetically induced linear acceleration. In short, this weapon uses magnets to fire a bullet at stupid speeds, punching through energy shields before they can activate, and ripping through the thickest of armour like a hot knife through butter. Not even the Imperial Knights are safe from this immense piece of kit, and this is just one of many advanced pieces of weaponry the Fire caste brings to bear against those who shun the Tau Va. Whether it is the active camouflage that renders the stealth battlesuits of the Tau invisible, or the immense firepower mounted upon their crisis battlesuits, those who earn the honour of operating a Tau battlesuit do so with a specialist role to fulfill. Arguably the most iconic part of the Fire caste's armoury, the Tau battlesuits not only look amazing, but are all various iterations of past suits, each version building on the next, each more specialised for a new threat encountered or a role required. My favourite example of this innovation in battlesuits comes due to the Imperial Titan Legions. The Tau had believed the Imperial Titans to not be real, being unable to comprehend that war machines so large could be either real or practical in an actual fight. after encountering them and being taught the hard way that these hulking beasts of war are not just Imperial propaganda used to intimidate the Tau. The Earthcast began work on Titans of their own. Cue the KX-139 Taunar Supremacy Armor Battlesuit. Armed with multiple burst cannons, pulse ordnance drivers, smart missile systems, and tri-axis ion cannons, this absolute marvel of Tau creation brings the force of the greater good down upon a world, willing or otherwise. The growth of the Tau Empire can be measured by their spheres of expansion. These spheres are the result of a build-up of technology and resource, followed by a push out from their current borders to explore, expand, and where necessary, exterminate. The first sphere of expansion occurred when the Tau were able to expand beyond their initial planet, pushing out to colonize the dense star clusters surrounding their homeworld. In this time of growth, they came to rely on the Firecast to remove the dangerous alien threats they encountered on these new worlds, as well as the Watercast, who were able to show the benefits that could come from welcoming other races into the glorious light of the Tau Va, rather than having to kill all non-Tau that they encountered. Only once did the Watercast admit that some races are totally beyond reasoning with, and that was with the Orcs. The green-skinned menace had even spread out to these far eastern edges of the galaxy, and proved to be a substantial obstacle for the burgeoning Tau Empire. In order to expand further, the Tau needed much more advanced technology and spacecraft. Prior to the second sphere of expansion, therefore, the development of artificial intelligence and the invention of the ZFR Horizon Generator were heralded as the vanguards for this next step in Tau colonization. With this new generator, Tau ships would be capable of travelling at near light speeds. During this rapid expansion, the name of Commander Puretide of the Firecast would become synonymous with Tau victory, as he led the forces of the Second Sphere to conquest after conquest, even bringing the Orcs to hesitate when facing against the legendary commander. The Tau even moved across the Damocles Gulf, encountering humans for the first time and bringing some worlds into the Tau Va. This invasion met with retaliation from the forces of the Imperium, and the Tau felt for the first time the force of the Imperial war machine, being pushed back across the Gulf and into their newly acquired space. The forces of the Imperium being stopped only by the combined efforts of Commanders Shadowsun and Farsight. In an attempt to reclaim these worlds, Farsight was sent across the Gulf once more, where he deserted his orders and his forces went dark. The third sphere of expansion was set to begin under the guidance of Ethereal Supreme An Va, when suddenly a great war swept through Tau space. 12 years of fighting later, and the Empire had fought back the tide of greenskins under the command of the now living legend Commander Shadowsun. She had led the Firecast to victory and commanded their respect, much like her teacher Puretide had done before. An Va saw an army of troops buoyed from victory and battle-hardened, and knew that now was the time to launch a sphere of expansion. At first, it went well, with Shadowsun claiming world after world beyond the Damocles Gulf for the glory of the Tau Empire, and pushing the Imperial forces that she encountered back further and further as they advanced. The Tau did not know of the true scale of the Imperium at this point, and when the Imperium's true full force arrived, they were taken by shock at the meat grinder presented before them. It was only through the intervention of Farsight and his renegade forces that the Tau was spared from total annihilation. But even then, the cost in lives on both sides was great. Not willing to accept a stalemate, the Imperium unleashed a devastating piece of archaeotech upon the Damocles Gulf, burning planets and pushing the Tau and Imperium further apart again. This complete and utter devastation threw the Tau for 6, with the Imperium doing the galactic war scale equivalent of flipping the table and screaming "Nobody wins!" Despite having no connection to the warp or any psychic might, the Tau had officially joined the galaxy at large, and was now aware of the true scale of the other powers within it. While still relatively small players in the grand scheme of things, the rate at which the Tau develop and adapt make them one to watch as things progress. We'll talk more in the future about the different seps of the Tau, as well as their more famous alien allies. But for now, we'll leave the Tau here, fighting for their place in the galaxy to enact their greater good. If you've enjoyed the video and don't want to miss any more 40k lore content, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps us to continue what we're doing. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.